Hello, 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 family. Welcome to another episode of Epic Understanding. I am your coach. I'm your host, Coach Erica Love. Anyway, y'all, I have someone who is very special to me here with me tonight. You've gotten the opportunity to learn a lot about him. You know that he owns a sports radio station in Nebraska. You know that he has had several TED Talks. Okay, so you know that about him. And you know that he has
You froze. You froze. You got to reboot.
Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Listen, the magic of technology. And I was in the middle. I was in the middle of introducing you. And when I came back, so here you are. That's the way it goes. But what I was saying, what you might not know about Coach DP, uh, Derrick Pearson, what you might not know about him is that he had such a near death experience. So forgive me for freezing. It was a surprise to me. It was like poof, and I was gone. You guys were gone. Everything was gone. But anyway, you might not know that he had a near death experience. You might not know that DP had to learn to walk again. You might not know that he had to rebuild his life uh, in a way that felt like pure blessings. DP,
Man,
welcome.
man.
Welcome, welcome,
How
welcome.
are you? Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I am so ready to hear about your recovery journey. Um, I just want to first ask you, how long was it? Actually, this is a question that came in from the audience from earlier. They texted in. They want to know, how long was it from your accident until that you did all of this amazing stuff?
It's pretty interesting that from the time that the EMTs came to my house to haul me out,
Mm-hmm.
um, literally weeks, weeks
Okay.
of of walking, going from a walker with an IV bag attached to my leg, for basic things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, to one day kicking that walker to the side and grabbing a cane, and I said, well, I'm gonna be the coolest old non-walking dude you ever saw. Uh, let them know early, give me room. I don't really know how this is gonna work.
Okay. Okay.
Like see the cane. First, I had the walker to protect me, then I had the cane, but I was still in the body cast.
Okay.
I still you know, had that to deal with. I wasn't allowed to bend or twist for 6 months. I couldn't
Mm.
bend or twist. Um, uh, it was humbling. But as I settled into not being so busy all the time, things began to slow down for me around me.
Okay.
And then as your focus narrows, right, that
Mhm.
I have to wake up, I have to be able to get up, I have to move, I have to reconsider what I put in my body. I also have to uh, reconsider what I allow to affect my heart and my lungs,
Okay.
right? That they tell you, you got to keep chill because if your blood level elevates, those clots could get active and angry and get back to work, and you don't want that. But it was
How
also
many clots did you have?
I had 27 blood clots. So when you hear of people passing post surgery from whatever they say, right?
Hmm.
Natural causes, right? They pass from
Okay.
natural causes for at post
Hmm.
surgery. Usually it's from a blood clot. That's
Okay.
usually what that is. So when you hear, from this point forward, when you hear somebody say, well, they had surgery and they never came out, or right after surgery they passed away, it's blood clot. Now, I had one will kill you. One.
Right.
I had 27. I had 3 in my heart. I had 4 in my lungs. And then I had 20 in my lower body. And on top of that, I had a bully with them. So the blood clots not only came as a gang, but they brought a bully with them. And it's called a saddle embolism that let the clots into my heart and my lungs, and then it wrapped it. So imagine a horse saddle, right? It
Okay.
wrapped it around my bronchial stem to choke me out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they will tell you 99% of the people who get a saddle embolism aren't here anymore.
Right. Right.
People who have 3 blood clots in their heart, they're not here anymore. 4 in their lungs, they're not here anymore. 27 total, they're not here anymore. But you have to learn to refocus, recalibrate, redirect, right? When we talk about rebuild, recover, my goodness gracious, that's what this was figuring out how to relearn everything, learning how to walk again, learning how to go to the bathroom again, learning all of it. Like, it's crazy to when the chaplain shows up
Mm-hmm.
and sits on your bed and asks you do you have anything to say, right? Do you want to have? Do you need to get right? And then she shows up the next day. You still here, but she's still letting you know. I wasn't sure you were gonna be here today, and that's 4 straight days. 4 straight days. I mean, my spine was open. The way this all happened was a spinal fusion surgery. So I was living by faith alone that I was going to trust humans with my spine and spinal cord.
Okay.
Like, that was my focus all that time, was get ready in your head with trusting somebody with your spine.
So I want to just take a step back, right?
Right?
Because you were what someone would consider a success before. That's true, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But the big things, the nationwide, worldwide things didn't happen to you until after your near-death experience.
It was. Some of my friends would disagree.
Okay. Okay.
Some of my friends would say I was worldwide before.
Okay.
I would say that I was a child before.
Okay.
I would say that I was a grown man baby.
Ooh. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I lived passionately, wildly, freely.
Okay.
I did a lot. I was living a good man's life. I was
Mm-hmm.
serving. Like, I was a high school coach and I was mentoring, and I'd already done a TV show. I'd already traveled the world. I'd worked in the NFL, the NBA, college sports. Like, I had already done that.
So you've done all that kind of stuff. Okay.
But I was coaching. At the time, I was a high school coach. I coached football, baseball, basketball.
Okay.
And it was that wear and tear that shut me down. So what happened after that was focus. That's
Mm-hmm.
what happened since the issue was getting humbled, finding out that you are small in this universe. And
Wow.
that when people say get small, you got to get small to get big. It's true. If you can't take a knee, you cannot stand tall. Like, that's it.
So you were worldwide on the coaching field.
Yeah.
In the coaching field. That's where you were worldwide.
Mhm.
But you were not writing books. You were not an author. You
Well,
were
I've been a writer all my life. I just wasn't published.
okay, so that's what I mean. You were
Right.
not a best-selling author
Right.
3 times over. You hadn't done any
Right.
TED Talks.
Right. No, I was not.
Okay, and you didn't own a radio station. You
No,
all
I
of that
did not.
happened. All of
Mhm.
those things happened in the last 3 years, right?
Right. Right.
Okay, and I'm just highlighting that because you went from being on your deathbed
Mhm.
to doing phenomenal things. You know,
I listen, Coach. I swore I wasn't gonna cry tonight, but it takes
I accept tears. I think
it. It.
I
It. it
think tears in a man who expresses his emotion is manly.
you know. It's this that God and the universe are so big,
Hmm.
and we are all so small, and we live in our fake massiveness, right? We think we're all bigger than we really are, but in the grand scope of things, to get humble and
Hmm.
focus, like I needed to get humbled in order to achieve a greater good. I had to learn that I can't take for granted today.
Okay.
I can't take tomorrow for granted. I can't take the interactions for granted. I can't take good people for granted. I can't take lessons for granted. I can't take
Hmm.
opportunity for granted. It is really just like a big universal size hand smacking you across the face and say, "Do I have your attention now?"
Hmm. Hmm.
And I go, "Yeah." And then it goes, "Okay." So think about this. Since then, first thing, I found out what my actual name is. I had never known who my father was.
Okay, so I did hear that, but do me a favor. Did that happen before or after your near-death experience? T-
They
tell
were
us.
they were all in this little space. So
Okay,
between 3 and 4 years, they were all in the very same space. I didn't actually find out who my father was until after the surgery, until after all that. The
okay.
process started right before. As a matter of fact, literally a month before.
Okay. You started
And as,
having those questions about your identity.
hmm yeah, I mean, oof, oof. You imagine like finding out later? Oh,
Well, you know what? I have to say, a lot of people are in that situation where they are finding out who their father is very late in life, and some people die without knowing who their father is.
if I had left then, I would have never known.
Hmm.
I
So
would have
you understand that.
right. Like I never would have met. I've got four other brothers and two other sisters that I never knew,
Hmm.
and they look just like me. Like
Wow.
they look like me, right? To meet them, to find out some of the stories that my best friend growing up actually was my first cousin. Like I was
Wow.
best at his wedding, and we were roommates for 7 years after college. Turns out this is my first cousin,
That's amazing.
right? I mean,
Amazing.
it just all of it. Like I wouldn't. Before all of this, I used to say all the time, if God takes me tomorrow, I've lived a full life. Like I've
Mhm.
lived several full lives. But that changed all that on that day. That all
So,
changed.
what was it in you that made you become this powerhouse after you recover, in your recovery?
Love.
All right, Mr. Love. You know I love me some love.
Love,
Tell me
man.
about that love.
So I don't know if folks know the name Griff,
Okay.
but Griff is a dear friend of mine. Griff, he hosts a show, gospel, a faith show with Erica Campbell from Mary Mary. Griff's my dude.
Okay.
The morning I was going into the surgery, out of nowhere, he left me a message and said, brother, you are already cured. You just don't know it yet.
Mm.
My brother, who is a minister, called me and left me a message as I was heading into surgery. God put you in the right place in the right hands. Settle down, settle in. You'll be all right.
Mhm. Mhm.
I had friends that I hadn't seen for decades show up at the ICU,
Mm.
right? Like, we would like to think that people would rally for us, but we don't know people can rally. Like, we hope people
Right.
rally for us,
We
but
don't
then,
know.
but then it hit me, right? Maybe.
RV Charity, he wants to know about your relationship with God. And you say love, right? He wants to know that you have a relationship with God prior to being, ill,
Yes,
prior to your near-death experience.
yes. And God is love.
Okay. So when you say love, you mean the Creator, the Almighty.
Everything greater than us.
Yes, everything greater than us. Got it. Mhm.
Everything greater than us is love. And sometimes you have to sugar speak and code speak for folks who don't want to take the medicine as it is intended. So we could purdy it up for them real nice.
Oh my goodness. I'm not going to even get you started.
well, this is the thing. Um, I come from family of ministers. I mean, the family that I didn't know that I had, turns out that they're the people who like run the church that I grew up at, not knowing that those are my people.
Wow.
My brother, older brother, the one that I grew up with, he's a minister. Like, he's the most godly human being that I know. Um, I was I was a man of faith and not a man of God. Does that make sense?
Mm, break that
So
down for me. I don't
right.
want I don't want to say what I think you mean. I want you to tell me what you mean.
Well, I believed in the greater, the grander, but I thought he didn't necessarily hear me, and he
Mm,
didn't necessarily feel me.
okay.
Like, I heard him, and I also, as I've told you, I have a hard head, but I have really big ears, and it
Okay.
just means that it reaches me more slowly. He's got to hit me harder to get me to digest what he's saying. Um, so yeah, God was always a part of my life, but I lived a full life. Like, it was, I'm going to live and I'll ask for forgiveness later.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then you recognize that those were just distractions.
Okay.
And that's a powerful thing, and live your life filled with distraction. Like, be still, slow down, let things become clear to you. Like, it's hard to see people when you're moving all the time,
That's
right?
true.
Right?
You want to know what is more important than that to me? It's hard to appreciate people, you know.
I that was me for a long time. I was always a decent guy, but everybody was replaceable. Everything was replaceable. And it's not that, not,
Mm,
like, it didn't mean that it had value, right? It didn't have value. What it meant was, if this thing is taken from me, I'm going to be all right. Instead of saying, I just don't want this taken away from me. And there's a huge difference between those two.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
It really
there's a huge bridge you have to cross to get from, look, I love this, but if it goes, it goes.
right. They kind of laissez, it is what it is kind of attitude. It's like it's whatever, I can
Well,
take it or
because
leave it.
well, because decades of living life being pain free. Now, I always said I didn't have any regrets
Okay.
because I was purposeful in the choices I was making. Now, I may have been wrong in the choices I was making, but I was it was, eh, you got to do better. And I took accountability for it, right? I took accountability for it,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't honor the lesson. Like I was filled with all this information, but I just wasn't honoring it. Like I knew right from wrong, I knew good from bad, I knew what I should be doing and what I shouldn't have been doing. But sometimes you have to get the smack. Like, you know, that's just God smacking me on the backside. Hey yo,
I just
enough.
have to go back to this attitude change you had
Mm,
because I mean, granted, you were the big guy on campus, so to speak. You were the coach of a lot of different sports, right?
yeah,
You had
yeah,
traveled the world.
yeah,
Um, so yeah. Wait, and didn't you own a bar?
yeah. Like
Wait a minute.
I was in the bar business for, and again, if you really want to measure yourself, people don't understand. If you measure yourself, put yourself in a spot where you have the keys to all the liquor and every sporting event known to man.
Okay, okay.
That is
So
a,
you were Mr. All That in a Bag of Chips. Okay.
I couldn't have been. I wish I was, but
Okay.
I couldn't have been because I wasn't working from the better place while I was doing it.
So maybe I'm phrasing that wrong, but you appeared to be Mr. All of That in a Bag of Chips. Maybe from the outside. Like somebody would look at you and say, "Oh, that guy has got it together."
Yes,
So that's what I'm saying.
yes,
You appeared to be the guy who had it.
yes.
Um, there was obviously more for you because look
Mhm.
where you are right now. You know, the
Right.
things there was a larger stage for you because you're just pop 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 pop. You know, 4th of July ain't got nothing on you.
Imagine if I had accepted these things about myself 30 years ago.
Right. And so it was the humbling of
Mhm,
your heart and the valuing of others that
mhm.
really started your rebuilding process. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
100%. And,
Okay.
and not one, I had to learn my place in this. Like
Okay.
learning that I had impact, as Chip Baker would say, I had impact influence on folks. And
Okay.
what I needed to focus on was making sure that it was a positive impact and influence and that I was using it as much as I should. I was
Okay.
really good to certain people. I was I was really good to certain people.
Mm-hmm.
But I had why would I do that for certain people when everybody needed it?
Mm.
Like
So you
why would I
you
pick and
just
choose?
value some, but you didn't value all. You didn't give that gift of honor.
Yeah, because it was here I was trying to manage myself
Mm-hmm.
and not having total control because I was still doing stuff that I knew I should have done.
Wait a minute. Like what?
Like that. Like that.
Wait a minute. Like this, that, and that enough?
like that. Um I listen, my testimony is not that I was always a good like I wasn't terrible,
Right.
but I was so much worse than I should have been.
You know what? I'm really kind of teasing you, but basically, you were one of those guys that could be respected, but you were not fully a man.
I wasn't fully formed. I was a grown man, baby.
You were a grown man baby.
Hmm.
That's kind of rough. You know what? I know some fellas that would not appreciate you saying that.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. So, what does a grown man baby look like? And what's the difference between a man baby and a man?
The moment where you can enjoy maturity, when you can enjoy the being better, when you can
Mhm,
enjoy uh, being still, being quiet, being calm, when
mhm.
you can enjoy somebody else's success, when you can when you can enable somebody's success. I was
Okay.
so busy trying to get mine that I was leaving people behind that I was meant to bring with.
Ooh, say that again. You were so busy trying to get yours that you were
Yeah,
leaving people behind.
yeah. I mean, it was. Look, I was what Steve Martin say in the movie. I was born a poor black child,
Okay. Okay.
right? And the grind and the hustle. So the
Okay.
grind is considered that constant. The hustle is maneuvering things side to side, make it appear like or to distract. What I
So,
needed was crush. I needed to crush, which was simply to devour and move forward in a positive direction.
wow. So you were moving people around in your life like chess pieces in order to
Mhm.
feed your own ego.
To feed ego, to feed the moment, to I don't know. In most cases, it was
Hmm.
to make them happy, but it wasn't to make them better. There's a difference.
Okay.
There's a
Okay.
difference, right? That I can tell you what you need to that you want to hear. But if I'm real with you and I love you, I should tell you what you need to hear,
Mm.
right? And learning that how you feel about the thing that's better for you is less important than what's going to happen after the fact. Like I need to tell you, listen, this is who we are, this is who you are. I
Hmm.
will not accept less just to make you feel better right now. Like, no, let's go. That's my favorite. That's one of my favorite words. Go, go. Like there are people that wanted to be in my life who weren't prepared to be in my life, or I wasn't prepared to be in theirs.
Hold up, freeze.
Hmm.
Let's talk about what it looks like to be prepared in somebody's life.
There were people who. So imagine that you were in my life when I was running bars locally, right?
Hmm.
And then 6 months later, I'm on a national TV show in a different state.
Okay.
To enjoy all the perks and benefits of the national notoriety and space, the travel, the events, and that sort of thing. But what you don't like is to share. You
Okay.
do not appreciate the thing that gives you the things that you hate that you love so much. Like you,
Okay.
right? You can't hate, you can't love the money, but hate the gig. And
Love the money but hate the gig.
right, there are people that wanted to be with me because it was sexy, because it was cool. They actually like being
Okay.
with me, but
Okay.
I had to work in order for them to have that. And then it becomes, well, I didn't start dating you to share you with two states and this thing that you've become.
Okay.
Oh, oh, you're not ready. You're not
Okay.
ready.
So what I'm hearing is you have to have a partner who is ready to go up with you and sacrifice with you.
Yeah, don't I? Yeah, look, I don't need an anchor.
Okay.
Like that's not what that is. Go
Hmm.
with me. Go
Okay.
with me. Right. That's all. That was the thing that was required is for somebody to go with me, rather
Okay.
than grabbing the back of my shirt and saying, "Where are we going?"
Ooh.
You're right. Like, no, let
Hmm.
go with me. And I had to learn that that was okay too,
Okay.
because when I couldn't do for myself, like when you can't walk and you can't bathe yourself and you can't feed yourself, that humbling is, oh man, that's what I was doing to people. Like, oh, I should have been all in from the get go. Like, it's easy to love me at 10, but the real is to love me at one,
Right.
right? And then I have to go, okay, but then I also have to love at one. And that's everybody.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
everybody. Like, imagine that I can't simply say, I'm only gonna take the best of you. Like, you hear those people like, if you don't like me in
It
my
doesn't
worst,
work that way.
right? Like, oh my
Work
goodness
that way.
gracious, like what are we doing? So I had to learn that. And on a big scale. So there were good people in my life. There have always been good people in my life. And maybe a problem. And there may be some people that identify with this. So I've never had a bad date.
You know what? We've talked about you and this never had a bad date.
I never had a
Um,
bad date. Never gone on a bad date.
Because I think
Never
that
gone on
goes
a bad.
towards your ability to just say, "Oh, it didn't work out."
But that's really what would happen
It
is
didn't work out.
it was like, meh. Well, because if something's always good, you
Mhm.
can't expect the bad. Like you have to
Mhm.
know what bad is for good to matter.
Mhm.
And if you don't know, if everything is Skittles and rainbows,
Mhm.
you ain't tripping about nothing. You can't stress about anything. So I had to
So,
learn to grind.
so let me transition this into the recovery
Mm-hmm.
steps, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you were in a book,
Mm-hmm.
or you are one of, is it seven authors?
Seven. Seven.
Seven authors. You're one
Mhm.
of seven authors in the book Rebuilt Through Recovery.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And part of it says that everybody's journey is different. The book itself really focuses on addiction,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Your story is a standout because
Um,
you were not necessarily addicted to a drug per se or alcohol per se.
mhm.
What would you say you were addicted to?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Ah.
You know
I've
what's
told
coming.
you this. I've told you this several times. Um,
Well, the audience needs to know.
I am addicted to good.
Okay.
I'm I'm addicted to joy. I'm addicted to
Yeah.
happiness.
Yeah.
And the reality is I had to learn to accept it as
Hmm.
it is, as it actually is. Not how I want it to be, not how I feel about it,
Uh
but
huh.
how it actually is. And I run to where love is welcome. I run to where love exists. Um, that could have been a problem
So, do
if
you think that you were always like that prior to your near death experience?
I was addicted to pleasure before being addicted to good.
Okay, so you were addicted to pleasure. I got it. And that came in many forms because, as we've already discussed, you had a lot of access.
Well, I had a lot of access, but I was also a hard worker,
Hmm.
and working gave me joy, gave me pleasure. Working out too hard, too often, too long gave me pleasure. But the wear and tear that happens from that, being reckless about it, anything that you do in abuse or in abundance, you have to have a boundary for. And I didn't have a boundary for because I thought I was Superman. I could work through all this stuff. But no, Superman has an Achilles too. Like you've got to learn what your thing is. And then once you learn your thing is, you know how to be super around it. I had to learn that stuff. I had to learn that I was great even if I couldn't throw iron and steel around. I was going to be great even if I didn't have a team of 80 young people surrounded around me, waiting for my bark to direct them. I was going to be okay if there wasn't a network of people around me that was waiting for the party started, right?
Okay. Okay.
You have to move past that stuff and get to what's real. And the real is being able to find good in everybody because it allows me to accept the good in me.
So, what are some of your main ingredients that bridges your journey of recovery,
Mm-hmm.
rebuilding, rebirth from such a traumatic experience to someone who needs to have a, a rebirth from alcoholism, drugs, gambling, any type of external addiction that honestly comes in like a whirlwind and sucks the life out of
Hitting
your
hitting
journey.
hitting rock bottom is
Okay.
universal. It's universal. Hitting
Let's
rock
pause and
bottom,
say that again. Say that again.
hitting rock bottom is universal.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a thing of your doing, your control, a thing that you're addicted to, or a thing that you just are comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to, friction requires that you make a move, that you make a decision and get out of that location and that place at that. Like the universe grabs you and puts you at the bottom of a thing where nothing else can exist. And you can no longer exist in that place until you decide, I'm going to go. I have to get up here and I have to go and be different. I have to live different. I have to act different. I have to just grow. All of
Mm-hmm.
that's required in chemical addiction. All of that's required in the thing that binds you. Whatever that thing, whether it's emotional, physical, chemical, all of them require a rock bottom, right? Bad relationship, rock bottom. It's the rock bottom that makes you recover, recharge, rebuild, redirect. All of those things are required, whether it's chemical, whether it's financial, right?
Okay.
Okay, I can no longer do this. I've caused pain, harm, and injury to myself and others around me. I am in a place where I can no longer do the thing that got me here. And you have to move. Like you have to move. And you also have to change. You have to change. So no matter whether it's drugs or betting or philandering or whatever that thing is, low self-esteem,
Mm-hmm.
self-doubt, self-abuse, marital abuse, all of those things. At some point in those things, you reach a rock bottom. But the people who recover and rebuild at the highest level are the people that pay attention to how far they fell, because the rebound is there. That's the thing. You fall and you hit rock bottom. There are people that lay there. You can't get your mail there. You
Okay.
cannot get your mail. Like it's okay to be located there once, but you can't get regular mail there. Rock bottom is not a place where you want people to know. Okay, that's where I can find it, because nothing good happens there. The rebound from your rock bottom is where amazing things happen. Because that's
And so
you
I
telling
like what you're saying because
huh?
people really want to rebound like a rock star. Because that is something that I find very significant about your journey. Even though you were good before, but your life took off like a rocket.
Well, but I'm different now.
Yes, you are different.
See, I'm different. I'm
Okay.
better because I took the talents that I had then and I
Mm-hmm.
put them to greater use in service. And service to me is the grand elevator and the great magnifier, is that I have to stop thinking about my success and I
Mm-hmm.
have to start thinking about other people's success. They're all intertwined. There's a line, a string that's drawn between you and I. And when you have success, I smile, I clap and I applaud. That's what I'm supposed to do. Mine will get here in time and in place. But when you celebrate the great things in your world, when you smile, I smile, because that means that somebody that I care about has done a thing and taken a step in growth. That's when the universe says, oh, we have a magnet now. We have a
Wow.
magnet for good. And then your magnet and my magnet and Anthony's and Chip's and all of our partners in crime, what happens is you build a force field of positive, loving people who constantly look out for, celebrate, announce, highlight, amplify the good people
Wow.
instead of the other thing. And
That's
that's
amazing.
that's where we get it.
That's where we get it. I want to bring on here one of your co-authors, right? Gary Carlson. And of course, you two know one another because you're both authors in the book Rebuilt Through Recovery. Um, but right now, what we're doing is we're really highlighting the bridge that goes through rebounding like a rock star through anything, and what you might find when it comes to addiction. So, welcome, Gary. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Glad to be here. Hey, DP. Good to
Good
see
to
you
see you.
again.
Good to see you, brother.
Okay. And so I will just say to you, family, Gary has spent 27 years sober. He spent 27 years sober, and um, he's had an amazing career, and he has a wonderful wife. And just really quickly, can you tell us the things that you have noticed in DP's journey that you picked up that goes along with your journey?
Well, I'm gonna start right in the most with recency. The thing that I heard DP say just a couple of minutes ago about that string that connects us. You know, when you have success, he feels it. And in recovery, in my recovery that I've gone through for alcohol and drugs with other people, and teaming up with them and being near them and being close to them and helping them, and they certainly helped me along the way. There are miracles that happen. In fact, not 2 weeks into my recovery, somebody told me to just keep coming back till the miracle happens, and I say those exact same words to young folks. And I say young, I mean early in sobriety and in recovery. Not only sobriety, but recovery has it's like a diamond. There are so many facets to recovery. But when you're connected with people and a miracle happens to them, just like DP was saying about the string, it's like Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind, when the light shone down upon him, it spread across the ground. It was a bright light, and it was warm. And so I know DP. So if a miracle happens to him because we're connected, I get the warmth and the grace of that as well. Not directly, but I share that because I'm near him, and I think that's very similar to what he was saying, where we share in successes and we share in our ability with one another to be connected because we want to be connected, to be successful because we want to be successful, not for ourselves, but for others too, for the others that we're around. And I think, we just had that experience with our book. There were 7 people that wrote a book. Everybody had a chapter, and we all got to meet one another. And I've read the stories, and it's amazing the parallels that can happen. And yes, I've had some back issues too, but nothing compared to what DP has gone through in terms of all of the complications that went along with him. I was turning the page. I was like, half the time near the end, I was turning the page, holding my breath. But I knew what the end was because I talked to him recently, and there he was. But it was very compelling, and I couldn't imagine going through that. But yet I can imagine that he did go through it because he did. And it's an amazing story of recovery, and it's an amazing story of tenacity and of faith, because I got that very loud and clear. And I have faith as well in my higher power, and I communicate with him every day, several times a day. And I'm grateful, as you know, it's one of my favorite sayings. Most days I'm full of great, which makes me grateful, and that all comes from having that connection with a higher power. So
That
that's
that
it.
that that's beautiful. I want to hear from DP. How much is your heart filled right now? How do you feel hearing that from Gary?
Well, I'll tell Gary this. I think I said it on the book launch, was that And like after reading Gary's and Anthony's stories, I felt like my story was small because I was I was so rooting for them in their story. And I felt like what they went through is so guttural. Like it from at the core of who we are. They had to clear and cleanse and find a base and find strength to straighten their back and get your chin up and go forward. And then they're carrying it with them from day to day. Like it's a never ending thread. And they have to carry it today. I mean, Gary has to carry it today. And I'm rooting for him again today because he's fighting the good fight. And when he shows up, as he says, I'm grateful because all the greatnesses exist. And here comes Gary to remind me how good and strong we are, how powerful we are, and how good God is. Because we're two stories that my next book, What Are the Odds? What are the odds that we find each other and can high five each other from across the country? How can we share love of each other and the battle's gone? So my heart is full because that man is there. That man, he's still there. And from this point forward, like from the first time I read the story, I need to know Gary's out there.
Okay.
Like I need to know he's still out there, right? Like it's
Yep.
yeah, like
Ditto.
another, like one more day. Like it's there he is, and it's so good. It's so good to have a circle of people who have respect for the day, have respect for themselves, respect for others, and respect for the gift and blessing that is that day. It's great to have. It's great to know.
So, what I'm hearing from both of you is there is an ingredient that no matter what's traumatized you, no matter what's kept you down, no matter what has arrested your life, there is a place that you can go that will cause you not to just get up, but to bounce up higher than you were before. It will cause you to be stronger than you were before.
I'm not letting Gary down. I'm not
Oh,
letting down. I'm not going to let Chip down. I'm not going to let Hoss down. I'm not going to let Coach Love down. I can't. I've got to do all the things that I promised to do, that I committed to do. That thing on if he promised to do, if you do, well, I have to. I have to keep showing up. And when I wake up, I get, remember that thing, say thank you. Say thank you because I get to see y'all again.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I get to see y'all
So
again.
it's a sense of community
Yeah.
that's
Family.
helpful.
Family.
Okay.
Family.
Yep.
All right. Um, what if you are feeling alone? Because a lot of times in our recovery, honestly, in our trauma, let me be clear, a lot of times in our trauma and our addiction, we are alone. As a matter of fact, we are alone because of the shame of the trauma and addiction.
Have you met? Have you guys met you?
Well, quite honestly, I can't say it's all
Have you
about
met Gary? Have you ever met Gary? Do you?
met Gary, but I guess I'm trying to acknowledge. I am trying to acknowledge the place that people go when they're in the most broken-hearted place of anyone's existence. And I won't go really far into it. I'll try to make my story extremely brief, but I have never been so overwhelmingly brokenhearted than when my mother was at death's door. Never been so brokenhearted. And there have been suicides in my family. And so my family had experienced suicide before. And I had always wondered, why? Why would you do that? And I'm going to acknowledge this isn't the only reason for suicide, but I felt it with me. There was a pain that I could not escape. I couldn't sleep it away. I couldn't think it away. Nothing. I just wanted to get away from this agonizing, terrorizing pain. And it was inside of me. I had reached the end of myself. Now, for me, when I reached the end of myself, I found my relationship with God. But I had never been so amazingly disturbed in a way that it sounded and felt like constant agony and noise in my heart, in my brain, in every part of my being. And so sometimes it's hard for people to share stuff like that. It's hard for people to get their mind around it. And all there is there's no community there because it's hard to communicate it. It's very hard to communicate.
The thing that we talked about in the groups of events we were on, and Gary can speak to this, was removing that negative thinking about whatever your flaw is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, stop thinking and being ashamed. Like, I had to stop being ashamed of not being able to walk, or not being able to go to the bathroom by myself, or not being able to bathe myself, or not being able to get up, or not be able to move. Gary had a thing that he, like, a big part of this journey is getting past the point of embarrassment, shame, and all those things, because your humanity is important. It's way more important than the thing that you feel like is greater than you. And we now, in writing the book, hopefully people know that there are other people out there that are going through those things, and you're not alone. You're never alone in this thing. In that book, it'll tell you how to reach Gary. It'll teach you how to reach Anthony. Folks now are going to know to reach out to you because you understand. And they'll reach out to Anthony and ask him how he got through. Or reach out to Hoss and explain the breadcrumbs. But Gary will speak to him for 5 minutes, and guess what? The bounce back will begin. That's who he is.
He is. Gary, was there loneliness in your journey? Was there shame in your journey?
There was, and what was really comforting, it took a while to get to the comfort, but what was comforting is I had several somebodies in my recovery path who walked with me, who led me, who followed me, who walked beside me. And some of the most simplest things got explained to me, like shame is nothing more than yourself telling yourself that I should have already mastered everything. And I'm such a failure because I didn't know how to do this, or I can't do this, or I can't reach out. And so you take it a step at a time. You ask for a little help and a little more help, and you get some confidence and you get some connections, and the shame starts to go away, because through the group you find out that I found out that I wasn't as terminally unique as I thought I was, that there's a lot of people who have gone through very similar circumstances, and they got to the other side. I mean, going to a meeting of people who are in recovery when you're young, and seeing and hearing laughter and jovial conversation and hugs given to people, and real genuine hugs, that they are happy to see you, and feeling welcome in a whole room of strangers. I could fly out to Nebraska tomorrow, and before I go to meet DP, I could walk into a meeting not knowing that he was there, and walk in not knowing he was there, and feel at home because I'm there, because I'm in recovery. I'm in with a group of recovering individuals. And it's an amazing connection that you have with people from recovery. Now, I want to tell you from the book perspective, I have always had this philosophical belief that we're all connected, that my intersection with people happened for a reason. Either it's a blessing or a lesson, or maybe it's a real blessing lesson. It was coming right down from divine intervention. And I felt that the seven of us getting together, Anthony was the magnet that drew us all together and pulled us all in. And it was an amazing synergy that happened in this book. This book reaches out to a whole myriad. It's not just one little focused area of recovery. It spreads out so that almost anybody who's having or knows somebody who's having trouble with addiction can read the stories in this book, all different shapes and sizes and avenues of recovery, and say, hey, this recovery is possible. And then give the person who's having the trouble with their addiction problem, why don't you read some stories and read about the hope that there is out there? But you have to try and you have to do something first. How about read the book and then maybe take a step if you want. But the hope is there.
Okay. So I'm going to ask this question as we close. DP, what are the 3 things that someone must do in order to have a true rebirth and recovery?
Get small.
Get small.
Get small.
So get humble. Get small.
Yeah. That's in recognizing where you are and what you're doing. Like, okay, then your location. Where am I and what am I like? I'm here. And then where am I going?
Hold on. I want to get this good.
So it's get small.
Get small.
Get to the truth.
Get to the truth.
And then get your mission.
And get your mission.
GPS is important because it's something that you can latch your heart, your hopes, your life to. Each next step is based on a thing that your GPS will tell you whether you're in tune, in line, and on time. Right? That I'm going to do better each day for anybody that I cross paths with. That's easy to monitor. That's easy to judge. And it's easy to evaluate. Like the next thing I will make better simply by being better and being present. Like knowing your location, knowing where you are, knowing what you're doing, and then telling the truth about whether you're taking your steps. Tell the truth. Like, am I, like I said, I need to walk. Okay, take that next step. I don't have to do anything but take the next step. All of that stuff in place. That to me is the most enabling, powerful directive that I've ever put in my own place. That works for me every day. I would offer that to everybody else. And there is a fourth little thing, and you've heard me say it before. When in doubt, love first. That's where you are. Love last, which is your mission. And in between, the best way to get there is to love more.
Yes. That is so beautiful. I am a lucky girl, right? I'm a very, very lucky girl. I thank you for being here with me and sharing yourself with me. I couldn't be more pleased that you are in my presence. Thank you, audience, for hanging out. This has been wonderful, even with my technical difficulties, right? It was really fun. I truly enjoyed myself. I truly enjoyed myself. Gary, do you have any parting words? If you were going to give one, if you're going to say, do this, what would be your parting sentence?
So I would say that having a connection with a spiritual connection with a higher power, higher entity, because it's out there. I'm sure of it. Whenever I get discouraged in my path, I often stop and I ask for his courage to help me move on. And when I have his courage in my pocket, the path is a whole lot easier. And I can find my way with a lot more stillness in my step and in my head. And so, I'm centering myself, like DP said. The first step is, to right size yourself, to be small. And so when I'm standing next to my higher power, I'm pretty small, but I feel very empowered by it. So that's the one thing for me that made a difference for me and a lot of other people.
I got it. Now, DP, I'm addicted to your advice. I'm addicted to your advice. And I think everybody else will be too. Coach.
Take this with you. Take this with you.
Yeah, Coach DP.
Love the next thing,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
including yourself.
Aww. You are awesome. You are awesome. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being a blessing.
Thank you.
Bye-bye for now.